Hey guys, welcome to another astrological natal chart analysis video. In this video, I'm going to analyze Selena Gomez's chart. If you have anyone that you'd like to suggest for me to analyze their chart, please post their name below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my videos. I'm looking at Selena Gomez's chart today. It was a suggestion by Reese V. Thank you, Reese, for suggesting Selena Gomez. I personally don't know a lot about Selena Gomez. I know that she's a singer, and I have seen one like brief video of her singing live. She has a really lovely voice, but I'm not personally a fan of her music. Nothing against her, of course. It's just that it's not my kind of thing that much. But what did interest me was, look, the fact that she's very successful is always interesting. But also the other thing I wanted to look at was she got sick in, I think it was 2015, or she was diagnosed with lupus, and then she had some kidney problems, and I know she had a kidney transplant. So I do want to look at what happened around 2015 for her with the transits, just briefly about that. But I'm going to analyze her chart today. So if you're interested in chart analysis and learning how to analyze charts, stick with me. This won't be a long video. It'll be about 15 minutes long or so, maybe 20 minutes. Let's start with what I normally start with, which is the sun sign. So I'll just highlight that as I normally do for these videos, if I can do that. Yeah, so the sun is in the 12th house here, 29 degrees, which is a critical degree of Cancer. So this tells me that Selena is very sensitive and very emotional person, and also very creative with the sun in the 12th house. So people with the sun in the 12th house have a lot of karmic stuff in this lifetime that they have to work through. It can feel like a lot of hard work on a very inner level when you have a 12th house placement, or you have a stellium in the 12th house, sun in the 12th house. Sometimes you can feel with these type of placements in the 12th house that your experience of life sometimes feels like there are things beyond your control that are frustrating you, because no matter how much you try to change the external situation in some way, you can feel frustrated because you come up against karmic forces that can be difficult for you to understand. So it also makes her very, very sensitive, as I said, very emotional, and also with the sun in the 12th house, some kind of spiritual component to life would be very important to her. So whether that's some kind of belief system that she has, and she does have the moon in the 9th house here in Aries, which 9th house people usually have a belief in a higher power, in some kind of spirituality or philosophy or something like that. Now, the sun and the moon are in a tight square. Let me see. 29. Why does it not show up there? Oh, yeah, that does show up on that aspect table. Yep. The sun and moon square aspect there. I didn't see that. Yeah, so the sun and the moon squaring each other here shows inner conflict. It shows that basically there's conflict in the personality between two very different aspects of self. So in Selena's case, a conflict between a very ambitious side with the moon in Aries, a very forthright energy, a desire to win at life, and it's moon conjunct midheaven as well. So moon at 25 degrees of Aries conjunct the midheaven at 0 degrees of Taurus. So it's an out of sign conjunction, still a conjunction. So what we see here is some tension in the personality here, some struggles within regarding, what the core personality needs are versus what the emotional needs are, which would be quite a struggle for her to get on board with conflicting parts of her personality. And, she would be very, in one way with the Aries moon here, very focused on, her success and progress, and pushing forward with progress, because when you have an Aries moon, you're very concerned with progressing in your life and pushing forward for development, new things. Aries is a very initiating energy. It's a cardinal sign, so it likes to initiate new things, and so is Cancer as well. So for her, she would like to initiate new things in her life, to feel that she has something to look forward to, especially with the 9th house there. That's the Sagittarius house, Jupiter ruled house, which is about faith and about looking forward with faith to an exciting future. And the moon in Aries craves excitement and craves intensity as well. So also the moon in Aries can be very emotional. They can be very reactive. So she'd have a very passionate, intense side, which she obviously channels through her music here with the sun in the 12th house. So there's also a lot of passion here with all this fiery Leo in the 1st house. So it's kind of like double fire energy, because of the fact that First of all, she has Mercury in Leo, Venus in Leo, and Chiron's there as well, which makes things difficult for her physical, in the house of the physical body, the self, the identity. Chiron conjunct Venus and Mercury there in the first house is very challenging for issues related to the physical body and physical health. There is a need for healing here for sure with this. And also there's a lot of pride in the self, but the pride is wounded here, sadly, with the Chiron in the first house. It shows that the pride is wounded in some way, that the emotional, there's an emotional aspect with Chiron conjunct Venus. Venus is the energy of self-worth, and with Chiron there, very tight conjunction. Look at Chiron at 11 degrees and Venus at 10 degrees of Leo. That's a very tight conjunction, which tells me that Selena would have some kind of self-worth struggles going on, and this issue that she has, she would need to heal this, but with healing it, she could possibly help other people in some way through her vulnerability and what she's experiencing. So there is definitely a difficulty in accepting the self, with Chiron in the first house. It's not an easy placement there. It shows that the whole sense of self, the identity, could be compromised. And Leo wants to shine and feel pride in the self, but this is where it's difficult for her. She loves what she does, I'm sure, but at times she's battling against some very strong internal undermining forces that are things that she needs to heal within herself, within her self-worth, within her creative being, within who she is and her identity. Also, she is a Leo ascendant, so Leo rising. So you'll see people with very strong Leo energy. There's a natural desire for attention, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be, unless it's really shallow and there's nothing behind it. But in her case, she's obviously naturally talented and creative, and she channels her desire to be seen through into music. And Leo and Aries energy, both of these energies, being very fiery and passionate, very go-getting energy at the same time. Even though she struggles with this energy here, she still pushes herself to get out there. So that wouldn't be easy for her at times. Maybe, doing interviews and getting out there is actually quite difficult and challenging for her at times. And maybe she probably loves what she does, but she still would have to push herself out there, I feel. Mars in Taurus in the 10th house is a very strong energy here. Mars in the 10th house is good because the 10th house is a Capricorn house, and Mars is exalted, meaning in its best placement in Capricorn. Now, even though it's not in Capricorn, it is in the Capricorn house, which gives it an extra benefit for success. And with these placements combined, there's a lot of push for success, a desire for success. Now, just with the Mars in the 10th house in Taurus, it does show that she will have potentially longevity in her career, obviously depending on how things go with her health. And she may have times when, because of this 12th house sun, she has to retreat back into hermit mode. She has to retreat back into a quiet space, a safe space for herself to heal and recover, because often when you have a 12th house sun, it feels very unhealthy to be outside in the world and out there on a constant basis. Even though her Aries moon in the 9th house can keep up with that to a certain extent, she will get torn and feel pulled back to the 12th house, which is being quiet, being introspective, having time alone, retreating from the spotlight, retreating from that moon conjunct midheaven, being out in the world and being seen and exposed. So interestingly, with moon conjunct midheaven, you'll often see, you'll often see this placement, moon conjunct midheaven, with people that are famous or well-known or successful actors or singers. It's kind of a blessing and a curse in a way, because with the moon conjunct midheaven, it does bring success, it brings accolades from the public, but it also can bring exposure of very sensitive moon issues, your sensitive emotions, to the external world, so people can know about your personal private life, your personal business, your sensitive emotional private things about your life can be pushed into the public sphere. And it's just typical that someone that is famous, often their life is exposed, their personal life is exposed a lot of the time, unless they're super, super self-protective. And she's probably had to learn with that sun in the 12th house, to protect herself a little bit more, because she's super sensitive, and it would be very painful for her, I think, when too much gets exposed of her private life. I forgot to say, the Mars in Taurus gives a lot of determination and the desire to not give up on the career. There's a very strong push to succeed over time, and to keep pushing on, keep going forward, even if it's slowly at times, even if it's gradual at times. Key thing I want to mention here is Saturn in the 7th house. So Saturn in the 7th house brings karmic issues from past lives to do with authority figures, parents, people that have power in her life. So there would be very karmic relationships. So any kind of relationships that she has with soulmates would be people from past lives that she has had strong connections with, and there's some kind of unfinished business. People that she does get into a relationship with would be teachers to her in some way. They would help her grow a lot. So those relationships that she's had would have probably meant a lot to her, and have felt that they anchored her in her life in some way. And Saturn does bring challenges and lessons. So her lessons in relationships would have been difficult. Saturn in Aquarius is not too bad. It's not as bad as Saturn in Aries or Saturn in Cancer, but still, nevertheless, having Saturn in the 7th house does bring tests with regards to relationships. But it does also tend to make her more geared towards monogamy, and long-term stable relationships is what she prefers. She probably would prefer to feel that deep connection with someone on a deep soul level, rather than just a sort of quick relationship that feels like it's superficial. She probably wouldn't go for that. She'd probably go for more someone where she actually feels a deep connection with. So she could be tested with regards to contracts and business deals with Saturn in the 7th house. They could be quite constrictive or binding when you have any heavy planets in the 7th house. Your connections with other people in business can be very binding and can be hard to get out of, so there can be that as well. There's that. The North Node in the 5th house shows moving towards creative self-expression in this lifetime, moving away from kind of being anonymous in some way, with the South Node in the sign of 0 degrees Cancer. So moving away from being more ensconced within a protective group or family dynamic, and coming more into the energy as she gets older of her own passions and projects that she wants to be involved with. Jupiter in the 2nd house in Virgo shows it's good for money, first of all, but money you earn, which is the 2nd house. And that also does show incremental growth over time. When you hit Jupiter in Virgo is not the best placement for Jupiter. It shows that growth is gradual over time. It can exaggerate some energies to do with the physical body, because it's in Virgo, which is a health-related energy. Virgo is to do with health and work. So having Jupiter in Virgo could exaggerate an issue within the health sphere. It can also afford the person some type of protection, because Jupiter is a benefic planet. It does protect. So obviously we know she has had health issues. She had a kidney transplant. So with Jupiter being in a physical house, the 2nd house is a Taurus house. It's a physical body house. In Virgo, another health orientated sign, it does show that even though she's had health issues come up, she has support, she has protection as well, which is a good thing. So that's good. Now in the health sector, she has Uranus and Neptune, which are very unpredictable energies. They're conjunct, so it can bring some difficulty in regards to health, some unexpected or hard to pinpoint. With Neptune, can be hard to pinpoint what the health issues are. So maybe there was a struggle for her to work out at first what was actually wrong before she got her diagnosis, and before she found out, the issues that she did have. Uranus is unpredictable, so it might have just flared up out of nowhere at some point, or it could have flared up kind of suddenly and intensely. Now, I just want to make a point that the transits that she had in 2015, she had Pluto just entering her 6th house by transit. You can see right now Pluto's up here by transit. These are the transits on the outside here. Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter have been going through her 6th house of health and work. And in 2015, Pluto just entered this 6th house of health, and Pluto is all about going into a dark aspect of life, going into the darkness, going into something very difficult. And also Pluto is about transformation as well, so she would have had a journey of extreme difficulty. And Pluto conjunct Uranus happened around that time of roughly around 2015. So yeah, it would have been a difficult time for her, where she would have suddenly discovered some very painful news about her health and had to come to terms with all of that. So the good news for her is Saturn will be leaving in about a year and a half. Actually, no, about less than a year, actually. Leaving her sixth house, it will be going to her seventh house of contracts, of relationships. So she's coming up to her Saturn return this year in 2021 and 2022. So this time period coming up for her is going to be challenging with regards to relationships. Sometimes people do get married when there's a Saturn return, especially because it's in the seventh house. Or they can, go into a relationship that's more of a stable commitment, but it's going to be testing them because Saturn challenges us, and Saturn return time is not an easy time. So she's going to be having some challenges with regards to business contracts and significant people who have authority in her life, as well as potentially having a commitment in a relationship and possibly getting married. And next year in not 2021, but 2022, she's going to have Jupiter transiting her eighth house here in Pisces, and it's going to trine her sun in the 12th house. So that would be a good time for her creativity, and maybe writing new music or something about relationships could be quite positive for her, with Jupiter going first into the seventh house and then into the eighth house in the next couple of years. So relationships are going to come into focus very much for her, and probably I would say new music as well, or a new development in her personal life, because the eighth house and 12th house are sort of more hidden houses, more behind the scenes kind of energy. So I also noticed she has Pluto in the fourth house of family. So when we have Pluto in the fourth house of family, there is very intense energies to do with a parent. Pluto does square her Venus, which means she's had difficulties in her love life, as well as Saturn opposite Venus. Her emotions can be very intense on the one hand, with Pluto in the fourth house. With Pluto square her Venus over here in the first house, her emotions and feelings in regards to her personal identity can be quite difficult at times. And it's already difficult for her because she's got Chiron here, like I explained before. Pluto square Venus can show difficulties in love, but also difficulties with self-love because of relationship troubles and struggles. So Saturn also opposite her Venus from the seventh house. So it shows that other people may be quite critical towards her, or criticizing her, the way she dresses, the way she looks. Other people could be quite merciless towards her, which may feel very unfair to her. And this is very karmic energy. Saturn opposite Venus is not really pleasant at all. Saturn opposite Mercury shows that she struggles with her thoughts about herself because of what other people say. So other people have a very strong impact on the way she feels about herself. Other people's comments and attitudes, especially when she's younger, would have been quite a challenge for her. So I think I'm just going to leave it there. Yeah, I think I'm going to finish that there. So thanks for watching, guys. And as I said, if you have any other ideas about any other charts that you'd like me to look at, feel free to let me know, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.